It's time to go beyond the headlines, cause I don't put in overtime just so I can headline. Okay, now it's Fox Sports, I'm live with Renee. Going hard every day, sports rapping every play. Different segments for your favorites, coming at you daily with positive vibes. Yeah, we some game changers. Basketball, football, soccer, with different interviews. You never know who may pop up. Listen, only on Beyond the Headlines. This is Beyond the Headlines. Only on Beyond the Headlines. This is Beyond the Headlines. Only on Beyond the Headlines. This is Beyond the Headlines with Renee Washington.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Beyond the Headlines. This is where you can follow us across all social media. I'm your host, Renee Washington, and I'm excited to bring you another episode as we have a great guest. As I talk about many times, we've got a lot of trailblazers and pioneers that join us on the show. Well, today is no different because we've got the CEO and founder of Sport Bigs Pam Kosanke from out of Minnesota, who is joining us to talk about how she's changing toys, sports toys specifically. And I love it as a female athlete or very former female athlete myself, to be able to see the great work that Sport Bigs is doing to change the next generation's opportunities. So again, give us a follow across all social media platforms. Of course, you can always follow me at my handles at Renee P. Wash, at Renee P. Washington as well, and to tune in to a new show each and every week. So of course, we're bringing you some positive vibes this week in our Positive Vibes Only segment with someone that is redefining and changing the game. So it's going to be actually more of a redefining us moment here with Pam Kosanke joining us, the CEO and founder of Sport Bigs.
Here's our host, Renee Washington, with Redefining Us.
The great CEO and founder, visionary behind a genius idea that once I saw it, I was like, why did I not see this sooner? Pam Kosanke, founder of Sport Bigs. Welcome.
Hey, Renee, thanks so much for having me. I love your show. So this is an honor. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you. And I'm so happy to have you on because I am excited to talk dolls. I'm excited to talk about the great work that you're doing. But before we even get into that, I like to ask, especially this time of the year, how are the holidays going for you as we're getting into deeper into December? How's the holiday season going?
Oh, man. Fantastic. Busy as usual. But I have to say, I'm healthy. Most of the people around me are healthy. I'm feeling very thankful. You know, I always first world problems only really over here. So I am completely thankful.
Yes, I hear that. I mean, at this time of year, more than ever, it's such a good time to be able to reflect back. But I feel like after 2020, we're not going to take for granted the little things, especially around the holidays, of being around family and being able to celebrate over food and sports and all the great things that we love to do. So
Sure.
I have to get into the fact that you have launched a tremendous product, Sport Bigs. And before we even break down how it happened, share with everybody about how you created these sports toys that change the way that athletes are seen for girls specifically. Share with us what Sport Bigs is all about.
Thank you so much. And I can't imagine you have many guests that come on your show holding a bunch of toys. But yes, I'm an adult who created a bunch of great toys. And, you know, sport toys are all about toys with swagger, I call it. So we are celebrating athletes and women's sports through celebrity-infused, talking, big plush, 18 inches tall, and you're able to rough them up and throw them around, and they stand on their own 2 feet. We've got basketball, we've got soccer, and we've got softball. And the cool thing is that, or the extra cool thing is that they talk. So it's real athletes, real celebrity voices inside, and they say cool phrases, confidence coaching phrases, stuff that's said in the locker room, just fun, silly stuff. And I'm not sure if you can hear me in this one, but I'll play Rebekah Brunson. I don't know. Can you hear her?
Yeah. She
Okay.
said, yeah, buddy.
This is she said, yeah, buddy. That's
Yep, I heard it. Okay.
and sometimes she'll say, you know, each one of them has just a silly phrase about food, about being big, playing big, dreaming, being big, and just, you know, talking a little smack, because that's what real athletes in women's sports do. right? I mean, we're not all about just playing fair and trying hard. This is about, you didn't wake up to be awesome. You didn't wake up to be average today.
Correct. Exactly. So I first of all, just congratulations on all that you have done to create these plush, large dolls that are so much more than just that. So there's a lot of things I like about it. First of all, the size, because a lot of times you see these like little small cutesy little things. No, this is something that's going to get some attention. If a kid is walking around with this, just like a stuffed animal or any other toy, you're going to see it. So it gets your attention. But then also the fact that you have them with their sport, you have them in a way where they're not overly girly. They're not wearing, this is, they've got muscles, they've got their sport, they're in a jersey.
There's a bicep in here.
Exactly, like real biceps. Because I just think back to when I was growing up. Of course, I was always an athlete, and I played with dolls. I played with a lot of different toys. But the only ones that I had that really represented being an athlete were these like Barbies I had one that was a skateboarder, but she was wearing this cutesy little like pink outfit. Yeah. I had another one. I think the most active thing was that she was walking her dog. So, so to actually see a toy,
careful,
that's a female,
your heart rate might raise too high when you're walking that dog.
I know, goodness, so active. Now, granted, that is an active thing, but it's not a sport. So I just love the fact that you're giving, for boys and girls, the opportunity to play with a toy that is a female that's being perceived in an athletic way. What was the inspiration behind creating Sport Bigs?
It's kind of like what wasn't the inspiration. I mean, I was swimming laps one day, so I was still competing. I still kind of do compete. So I was swimming and training. And I was just thinking for some reason about what I would have wanted to play with as a kid. And I just remember it being this complete vacuum of anything related to women's sports. And we had to basically co-opt or adopt men's sports. I mean, we needed to try to get, it was like Michael Jordan back in the day, right? It was like, I want to be like Mike, but I actually couldn't be like Mike, right? There was no such thing as being like Mike back then. And so I just knew that it was like Barbies and G.I. Joes, and there was nothing that celebrated the bigness, the power, the athleticism. And I just thought, wow, what a shocking, like, just if you think back when I started to Google, there was just nothing but a sea of pink. And even when there was a token athlete, it was just basically dumbed down, right? It was, it's a pink and purple weight. It's a soccer ball, but a pink handbag, as if she's going shopping or something. While as a plane. So that was the inspiration. And there was also some really, I've spent a lot of time in women's, in sports sponsorship and sport development, and fighting for women's sports equality in my kind of business life. And it's shocking, the stats are, and this is from the Tucker Center for Women and Girls in Sports, only 4% of sports media coverage is dedicated to female athletes. By age 14, girls are twice as likely as boys to have quit sports altogether due to a lack of access, social stigma, other inequities. Less than 1%, and this is the thing that crushes me, my soul as an athlete. Less than 1% of all sports sponsorship dollars go to professional female athletes. And it's just insane. And, it's the money involved in men's sports is just, the gap is so wide that it's almost impossible to catch up with. So really the larger mission of this entire thing is to be the #1 sponsor of women's sports on the planet. I mean, let's just go big, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look,
why not?
You're definitely you're not one that is afraid of going big. Looking at your experience, looking at your successes, for those of you that are tuned in, Pam is not only the CEO and founder of Sport Bigs, but also a multi-sport Team USA member, or 6-time competitor in world championships. You competed in softball, rugby, and long-distance aquabike. I don't know how you've done it, but I commend you, and I got to give you your roses, because not only have you been able to change sports for the next generation, but you've been able to do it in your own experiences. And now to have someone that has lived it, to be able to take the next step and be a pioneer and be an advocate for women in sports, it only makes it that much more empowering to see all the great, doors that you've burst it open.
Thank you.
Success. So I
Thank
love
you.
that you have been able to take that next step. And as you mentioned, the sky's the limit for where you plan to go with Sport Bigs. And like I said, you've done it on the international level. And I imagine that Sport Bigs is only going to do the same. Now, how long has this been? Like, take us through the timeline of, well, I'm sure it's been an idea for a while, but kind of take us through that timeline of when it actually became.
Yeah. Well,
more than a vision.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, it's been such an entrepreneurial journey. I mean, I have a professional marketing background. I do professional business coaching for entrepreneurs. And, it was really interesting for me to take this on and kind of do an entrepreneurial project myself from start to finish. And about 3-4 years ago was when I started to ideate this. And the whole thing was, I felt like I was in an amazing race. So, literally like, okay, you have this idea to make a toy. Well, how do you go make a toy? How do you go mass manufacture a toy, not knowing anything whatsoever about it? So, through a series of just frankly questions around who, not how, because I felt like, hey, this isn't a new concept of figuring out how to make a plastic toy, which, by the way, it started as a plastic giant toy, 14 inches, so 2 inches bigger than Barbie. That was my my plan.
I like it.
Yeah, so we were just going big. But plastic injection molding, turns out that's pretty expensive to fail at. So I was convinced to go the plush route, but just through a series of connecting with, frankly, some incredible toy makers, right? Toy inventors, 2D, 3D sculptors, a seamstress who is incredible, who knows how to make custom plush, helped me bring to life the muscles, like figuring out actually how to make muscles out of cotton fibers and stitch it together, and eventually figuring out how to mass produce it. So I was connected to Women in Toys. I joined Women in Toys. I went to the New York Toy Fair. I repped the product. I tried to meet as many manufacturers and kind of people who were in the business. And lo and behold, just connected with, the irony here, by the way, is that I was connected to essentially a mentorship group within Women in Toys that was started by the founder of Barbie. So it was irony at its finest to say that they actually helped catapult me to finding an incredible woman in Hong Kong who eventually taught me how to mass produce these toys, and found the maker of Cabbage Patch Kids. Remember those back in the day?
Wow.
In China. So I through this incredible amount of translation efforts, of sizing and shipping toys back and forth from China. By the way, during a pandemic and a global supply chain like nightmare, we figured out how to create, it wasn't gonna be one, and then eventually it was 3, and found celebrity athletes that were just unbelievable people to be part of this. And there it is. 3 years later, we launched around the Olympics, kind of a soft launch, and had some really great, awesome buzz. I mean, Megan Rapinoe gave us a shout out, and that was super fun review. Abby Wambach, like a lot of the celebrities that are kind of in our world just started to have some shout outs for us. So it's been an amazing journey.
Yeah. Oh, congratulations. And honestly, when you talk about just all the hoops you've had to jump through to make this happen, it's something I didn't even think about. I'm sure nobody else was thinking about all the logistics that go into it. Like, how do you, like, we see the after products, but as you mentioned, there were some originals that happened before that.
Yeah, it's quite a process. And they usually say that if an entrepreneur would have known then what they know now, it's would you start? And to be honest, like on so many incredible learning curves, I've self-funded. I learned, I met some incredible people along the way. I'm having a lot of fun. I mean, I want to, this isn't about selling a bunch of stuff. This is about celebrating and giving kids a chance to really identify, with the athlete identity. I think we totally overlook, like when you think about intersectionality, we think about all the different types of identities. The one thing that always crushed me as a kid was not feeling like I could stand proud in my athlete identity. I was accused of being a tomboy. I was outcast over here. And, you'd think that we were far removed from it today, but I have coaches telling me left and right that there are girls coming into like Division I programs are worried about looking too big on TikTok.
Yep.
And, it's like, you do need to have, muscle backside to hit the ball. You do need to have the muscles in your arms to be able to crush the pitch, right? Like, I just, it's sad to me that we can't embrace that identity. And frankly, there's women being killed for playing sports around the world. I mean, as evidenced by in Afghanistan and some of the women's sports, like athletes. So I just think, hey, anything we can do to raise this attention and this pride to women, non-binary people, girls, just saying, look, we celebrate being an athlete. Then we'll take it all day long.
Absolutely. And I agree with you in that there's so many stigmas around, I don't want to be to this, I don't want to be to that. It's okay to be an athlete and you can still be yourself. It doesn't make you any different. And so being able to it's all about representation. That's what it comes down to. And from a young age, and this is what I was definitely, I definitely saw in my own experiences in the toys that I played with. Girls' toys tend to be, like we said, they're very pink, and there's nothing wrong with pink. I like pink. They're very pink. They're very girly. Great. They're very, very like frilly. They're very like, we have houses and we're cleaning and we're pretending to be moms. And again, there's nothing wrong with that either. But we can also play with toys and be tomboys. You can play with toys like something like this because it is plush, which I like that adjustment from being plastic. You can now play with it and run with it, and maybe you fall, whatever, that's fine. It's not going to hurt you. It's okay to play. And you can also play and be more interactive and be a tomboy or be active. So I like the fact that you're showing this in a way where it connects on so many levels. And then you add in the fact that you can hear their actual voices and what they're saying is encouraging and sports terms. And it also is professional athletes. So it's not just a random Barbie and whatever other Barbie name. And I like Barbie. There's nothing wrong with it, but they're real people. And so I'm gonna do you one better. My nephew just got for his birthday a LeBron James from Space Jam toy. And so as we were preparing for this, and I was like looking at the toy, I'm like, wow. First of all, it's just great to me that you also have, and much like LeBron James's toy, representation of different races, but also now you're giving double minorities or multiple minorities on that level. But it's just so important for toys to have different looks, and yes, we can still have the Kens, but you can also have different races, different genders, different shapes and sizes and muscles and body build. So take us through how you came up with these three.
Oh gosh. Well, I'm in Minnesota, and we have, the Minnesota Lynx pro WNBA team, and we had some friends kind of in the business. Actually, a good friend of ours works security for the Lynx, and she was kind of hanging in the wubble with them and practicing and hanging out. And we said, look, I'm like, I need another athlete to help kind of come into this line, and give me somebody who's literally some of the best core values, salt of the earth type of person that I would just be proud and fun to work with. And she said, hands down, Rebekah Brunson. So like we have these cards, giant cards for them as well, right? So Rebekah Brunson has become now like, just one of my heroes. I wasn't familiar with her with Shame on Me and Shame on Media, but I wasn't connected. And suddenly I had just, we've become friends. It's just been so fun. She was in from the day she saw the idea, asked little questions, could not be more of a joy to work with. This woman is a 5-time WNBA champion, 6-time WNBA all defensive team. She's a career leader in offensive rebounds. And she's the Minnesota Lynx career leader in rebounds, and she's the assistant coach for Minnesota Lynx and a Timberwolves sports commentator. So, and by the way, it's her 40th birthday on Saturday, so a little shout out to her. And it's gonna be a fun birthday party. And then Lori Lindsey is also one of my best friends, girlfriend, and she is just a phenomenal athlete, person. She's a commentator as well for NBC Sports. She's one of only 5 players to play in all 3 of the U.S. Women's Pro Leagues, 10-year member of the U.S. Women's National Team, played in the 2011 World Cup, helped to win gold at the 2020 London Olympics, nominated for the U.S. National Soccer Hall of Fame, like just a badass and an awesome person and a good friend, right? And on top of this, Lisa Fernandez, who's unbelievable and probably one of my actual heroes when I was a kid. This is so funny. So Lisa Fernandez, who maybe just in case everybody needs to know her rap sheet, 3-time Olympic gold medalist, 3-time Pan American gold medalist, 4-time world champion, 3-time Honda Award winner at UCLA, 2-time national champion at UCLA, 4-time first team NFCA All-American, assistant coach for the Bruins, UCLA Bruins. When I was 15 years old, I was called up to play against the Olympic team in St. Louis, Missouri. I grew up playing softball, went to school in Michigan. I'm a little kid. We get all-star team together back in the day when the Olympic team would travel and play to prime for the Olympics. Lisa comes to town, and like at that point, she was a legend, still is a legend. And she struck me out laughably. Like I was literally melting at the plate with her changeup. But I will tell you, she hit the ball to shortstop. I was playing shortstop, and I threw her out. And you would have thought I won the World Series myself. Like I was so excited as a pitcher to throw out Lisa Fernandez. So of course I remind her of that as I'm working with her to be a part of this. You know, as you would like rub it in. And the funniest thing is she was like, she was not happy with it. I was
like this is like the highlight for you. Forget all that you've done.
No,
this is like the highlight for you.
But she was also like kind of like, you know, like whatever. Like wasn't like she was a competitor. This woman like does not know how to lose. And she was like mad that I threw her out when I was 15. I'm like, it's okay. You still beat me.
Later, I love that. I love that.
Anyways, just phenomenal people. They love the idea. They're part of the mission. They've been incredible. You know, and that's who I want to work with, right? Like my vision is to expand this line and work with all different types of athletes that have a lot to contribute and say. And these are legends in the sport. I mean, you know, we're all people who've climbed on the backs of people who've done the work before us. And so it's like carry the torch forward. And, you know, these are people in the sport that are like just paving the way and continue to pave the way. It's just a joy to work with them.
Absolutely. I did not know that you also include a card. So now not only are you providing representation, you're providing, it's informative, it's empowering, it's educational of like, here's who you are holding. This is the toy. It's not just some random person. You know, this is about Lindsey or Lisa Fernandez or Rebekah Brunson, to be able to show all the incredible accolades, you know, or some of them, not all of them, I should say. Some of their most incredible accolades and honors that they've been able to accomplish. So again, that representation of it's okay to be like them, you know, and I think the best thing about this is, as you talked about, you know, we're seeing more of just a normalcy across like TV and media and how we're represented across social media as athletes, but now to be able to directly help kids. You know, this is something, they're not on social media. They might be watching TV, but they're not watching as much as we may be. But now here's something, again, you can carry around with you. You can sleep with. You can have at practice. It stands up so you can sit it down while you're working on your pitching or something. You know, you can have it with you. And just like you carry around that stuffed animal or that blankie or whatever else, you can carry around one of these 3. So
be a workout buddy.
Oh, exactly. So I love that they were also so invested as well. Now, I have to imagine there was some fun in creating the quotes they were going to say, and take us through the process of like including them and actually creating each of the different toys.
Oh, so fun. So I got everybody in the studio, right? So Lindsey was able to come to Minnesota and join me in a studio. My wife owns Media Bridge Advertising. So downtown Minneapolis, big ad agency. So we got into their studio and just went to town. I mean, the background of the stuff, you know, all the outtakes that of course didn't make the toys, but I mean, just hooting and hollering, having fun, saying the things that we used to say to each other, you know, or we would say to each other on the field. And it was just fun to have them let loose and just make it up. And, even Lori says, eat your broccoli, and it's just a funny way of, and she also says donuts make everything better. So, it's like we're having some fun.
Yeah.
We're not being too harsh about this. It's all about like really just bigging it up, right? And then Rebekah Brunson, the same thing. We brought her into the studio and just like had so much fun. I mean, you could tell both of them just became gamers like in the studio, and it was like, they're retired, so they're just kind of like, you think average, chill, whatever, and then boom, in the studio it's like, oh, this is how it was at halftime,
Yep.
And it was just fun and motivating. And Lisa, we couldn't get her into Minnesota, but I patched her in. She went to a studio in LA and had a lot of fun. And it was incredible because even the people recording were like, this woman is literally one of the most accomplished athletes on the planet. And she's in our studio. And it's like that moment where you say, you know what? Shame on us for not talking about these stories. I mean, this is why the list is about bragging rights. We talk about her superpower, the mental armor, X factor, fit factor, rituals, cross sport loves, bragging rights. Like get to know the people who are making waves and knocking it out of the park. That's what these athletes have done.
Absolutely. And I have to imagine, as you just we're talking about the people in the studio with Lisa, I have to imagine that it's been some really great feedback that you've gotten from people. What has been kind of the response of, customers and even as you mentioned with Abby Wambach and Megan Rapinoe, different athletes, what has that response been like for you guys of just the way people have embraced Sport Bigs?
I think there's a sense of shock, like, I can't believe this doesn't already exist. So
that's
they're
what
almost
I was thinking.
like a frustration of like, what, why, oh my God. And now everything looks pink and purple and wimpy. And you're like, now we can't have anything else. And then there's the kids, honestly, watching the kids play. And I mean, they're rough with them. They're like throwing them down oh yeah. They talk a lot, by the way. And I've got pictures of people in their kind of mommy mobiles with all the kids having them, and their phrases are just playing left and right, and they can't stop. And then the way they play, they stack them on top of each other. They're like wrestling with each other, and I'm like, this is the way that I wanted people to interact with them and the kids, and they're just having a lot of fun with it. Boys, girls, days. It's like everybody can identify with these toys, and they just have fun, and they're rough. They get to play around with them and throw them around, and that's what we want.
I love that. And again, I like that even the detailing is what's getting me, because even the fact that they're in like athletic stances, like Lori Lindsey's like cheering, like you've got Lisa she's got the ball, she's like yes, like they're not standing there like posed and just straight. They're all doing like for their respective sport. Well, actually, just for any athlete, like power stances. So even that little detailing goes such a long way, because as we know, especially with kids, so much of it is subliminal. It's not directly saying you as a girl have to act like this. But when you see all these images and this is how women are acting across TV and movies and everything else that we're inundated with, we get in our minds that that's the norm and that's what's expected.
That's right.
So I like that even down to the details of like the way they're dressed, the colors, their like I said before, the muscles, their stances, their facial expressions, like they're fun, they're exciting, they're not just smiling. Like it's all connected in a way that is going to show kids like it's okay to be an athlete and it's okay you can do it all.
It's true. I was in sorry, they keep playing because they're
chiming in.
Sorry, they're very much want to be part of the conversation. It's funny, I did a couple of videos where I was at Target, and it's like I knew what I was going to find, but I was also thinking, you know what, it's going to be like more modern, it's going to be more progressive these days. Well, I go into the Target aisle and I was just blown away by the lack of progression of pink and purple, which again, nothing wrong with the pink and purple. Love pink and purple, but it's just ridiculous. And all of the toys are mermaids, babies or ponies.
Ugh.
And I'm like, look, girls don't all want to be princesses and mermaids. In fact, I never wanted to be a mermaid. I appreciate that there's some fantasy about us all turning into mermaids
No
and
idea where
kissing
that
some
comes
dude. But I mean, like, there's more. There's just more. And even the athletes that we saw are these little stick figures without muscles. I'm like, look, this woman is going to break her kneecap the first time she goes out for a slide tackle. This athlete is not going to make the Olympic team. I hate to break it to everybody. But, you know, and you go to the boys aisle, at least they're trying with the mold. You know, the molds are automatically muscle bound and fit. And it's just shocking. And, you know, I was in New York and I went to FAO Schwartz, and it was worse. It was like the baby center. And in fact, like, it was about like taking care of babies. And I'm like, I don't know why this is still the only thing that girls see. It's dresses and babies.
Yeah. Yep.
Kills me. I don't understand.
You go to the girls section, and that's exactly it. There's a lot of imaginary play, but all the imaginary play is princesses, being a mom, being, again, these very old-fashioned mindsets of like women just only being able to be, you know, caretakers. I get it that it's cute that little girls, and again, I was guilty of it myself. Did we play and pretend that we're, you know, we've got our baby dolls and we have the, you know, all the dress up and everything. But even as you mentioned, it is also even on the boys' side. You've got trucks and cars and Legos and blocks and things, but you still don't have a lot of athletes. Like, I think that's what we're coming back to, is it's not only just showing them in other areas, but let's diversify it. I mean, I'll even take it a step further, because I even think back, you know, I guess that toy was a vet. The one that was walking the dog may have been a vet. But even the fact that we don't have a lot of toys that truly represent all these other different industries. Why is it that every doll, every toy is kind of the same? Now, for boys, you'll get policeman, firefighter, you know, you will get those, but there's so much more. And they can look different. You know, they don't have to all be, like you said, the slim dolls and toys and things like that. So being that you've now created 3, and you're 3 years in, you've created 3 plush toys.
3 years into the whole process. Recently, at least.
What's next? Are we getting some more toys? You know, what's kind of the vision moving forward?
It's a great question. I have the entire toy line in my head of all the sports, from like surfing to skateboarding to, you know, parkour. I mean, just at cheerleading, anything, right? Anything that's like about athleticism, they're on my head. And I've got some target athletes in mind to be part of the program, you know, and really the larger vision is I want to sell out of this first round. I want to go to market and create a co-opted ownership model. I want the pro athletes to buy in and be a part of it. You know, this is about paying athletes and paying athletes in women's sports what they deserve. I want to sponsor them. I want to sponsor women's sports. I want to build the empire that helps to, frankly, the case study to me is building a company that is completely like grown off the back of women's sports sponsorships and athletes. And so really it's about finding, you know, female sports celebrities to pay to go be a part of it, and to have them be a part of the upside potential, and eventually let's grow the empire one toy at a time. And, you know, I really do feel like this is about better together, all boats rise, you know, abundance mindset. You know, there's no get rich quick scheme here. It's just, let's do it for the right reasons. And I think it'll set us free.
Absolutely. And I have to imagine, I'll take like sports jerseys, for example. I have to imagine there was a time where it wasn't as easy to find sports jerseys. You know, you couldn't, maybe it was, you know, when they first came out, maybe they started with one or two major players here. Now you can buy jerseys for any and everyone. You can buy their college jerseys. You can buy their high school jerseys. You can buy home, away, all these different levels. And I think of Sport Bigs as kind of that same model where eventually, and maybe I'm putting myself in this, like I'm involved in the plan.
Hey, please join us.
But maybe it eventually gets to the point where you can now buy it, just like you can go on any team store or go into a team store, and there's your plush toys of all your players, you know, doing different actions and different stances and things. So, you know, I think that there's such a need for it. Like we said, it's like why not? Why hasn't this been thought of before? Why did it
Seriously.
take so long to come up with this?
Seriously.
But there is absolutely a lot of benefit from this, as you mentioned, of representation, but also hopefully being able to provide financial opportunities for
That's right.
players. So I really commend you on that. And
Yeah.
I feel like it's
this
gonna
is
happen.
this is about the commercialization of women's sports. I mean,
Yeah.
make no mistake about it. It's money talks. Money makes it go around.
Absolutely.
And I want us to pay the athletes what they deserve. I want them to have the sponsorships that are meaningful, that will, that will spin the flywheel for them. I want Sport Bigs to be the title jersey sponsor of every women's sports program you can imagine. I can see an entire little league of Sport Bigs league. And in fact, we have a fundraising program on our site where we can sponsor the teams, and help them, with feel, is one thing is I felt like a celebrity athlete when I was back in St. Louis, Missouri. I played for the Coca-Cola team, and there was like Pepsi and there was Coke, literally, and they sponsored our bags and our jerseys. By the way, Budweiser, Busch Light actually sponsored us too. Somehow that was okay back then, but we felt like rock stars, and that's how I want all athletes in women's sports to feel like they are getting supported, they're getting funded, they're getting the best field, they're getting the best conditions, they're getting the media attention, they're getting the limelight, they're getting what they deserve. And when I was growing up, I'll tell you, one of the inspirations behind this was I was obsessed with women's tennis back in the day. My mom loved Chris Evert. I love Martina Navratilova. We battled it out. We'd watched every match, and I was just always rooting for Martina, and then eventually Steffi Graf. I begged for a Martina Navratilova anything. We looked all over. We called every sports store in the country.
Wow.
Could not find anything that represented Martina. And eventually we found one poster that I found of hers, and it was the only one out there. When you walk into sports memorabilia stores or sports auctions, you won't find a women's jersey still. You will barely find anything that is considered valuable for resale. You're not, people are bidding thousands of bucks on, NFL players' helmet, but they're not doing the same for women's jerseys necessarily. I mean, it's starting to creep in there, but it's not there. And we just need to change that paradigm, period.
Oh, wow. That's such it's a sad story, but it's our truth. That it is so hard to find something. Like you said, you were just looking for anything. Like it wasn't that you wanted something specific. You just wanted anything. And that's so sad to me that it is so hard. So when people talk about how do we grow the game? How do we connect with the next generation? How do we get more fans and seats? You've got to be able to connect players to fans. And I always say that. I said that's the biggest thing that social media has at least allowed, is that we now can follow players and get the behind the scenes looks. But you need to in order to make people a true household name, it's got to be that they're talking about them and they're recognizing them from a young age. I grew up with as a fan of a lot of different players, but like I'll use Allen Iverson as an example. Yeah. Growing up in Jersey and going to a lot of Sixers games, and I had the shoes, the headband, the jerseys. I was AI. Number 3 still is my favorite number to this day. So that's something that, it just goes such a long way to have that representation consistently, where the next generation has a role model and an inspiration to not only look up to, but also feel that proudness of being able to rock something of theirs, anything of theirs, and have a toy. So as you mentioned, and not being able to do that, you now are able to provide that opportunity.
Yeah, it's super fun. I wish I could sign up. I could do this, full time, and and I cracked all of them. It's an amazing journey of creating these things, and it's fun. It's fun. The athletes love it. It's just cool to be a part of it. The more I think pro athletes that we get involved in this, the better. I mean, even some of the NCAA athletes, now that they can get some sponsorship and some value there, I think that's phenomenal. And so I welcome more people just jumping in and eventually just making this. I love your vision, licensing deals for all of the teams and the leagues, and you could create your own team of sport bigs that are representing. And the other piece of this is I want to get sponsored by a cool merchandising company, or apparel company. sports fashion, let's talk to Nike, let's talk to Adidas, right? Let's talk to Athleta, right? Like, let's get their jerseys made as the real deal, and I think it'll add some legitimacy.
Oh yeah, like think about it. If now you have Rebekah's wearing a Lynx jersey and the Sport Bigs is the logo on there, that's it's so connected.
Yeah.
Just like the fact that like the LeBron James toy was wearing the Space Jam jersey,
That's right.
Again, it's that next step. So it sounds like there's a lot of really good ideas on the horizon, and I'm excited for you, and I'm loving everything about Sport Bigs and just the value, the missions, and as well as just all the impact that you're able to have on so many people. So can you share with others? I know you've got basketball practices calling your name. It never ends. So I see you're rocking this great gear. Let everybody know where they can support and follow, promo, drop any links or information around where people can get more around Sport Bigs.
Love it. So we have just an e-commerce site. So www.sportbigs.com, sportbigs.com. And that's our main site to purchase the toys. You can certainly follow us at Sport Bigs. We're across all the social media platforms. So we'd love to have more fans. Like, just give us your email, sign up. We'll give you a discount, all that good stuff. We're always running some fun specials. So, hey, holidays are coming up, and wouldn't you love to have a Sport Big kind of in your holiday celebration?
There you go. I love it. 'Tis the season. Go out and buy your favorite player.
Yeah.
Pick one. Buy all three.
Love it.
Definitely impressed with all that you are doing, and I appreciate you for taking time to join me on the show to share, and also bringing the three, well, many more. I see many more in the background too, but bringing them all to be able to share. Lori, Lindsey, Lisa Fernandez, and Rebekah Brunson with us, and just bringing all the excitement. So thank you so much, Pam and friends.
Thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate what you're doing. I just love your show, and appreciate you taking the time to hear our story and celebrate women in sports.
Thank you. Of course, us women in sports are doing big things, and there's nothing but greatness in the future. So
play
I'm excited
big,
to
play big, everyone. All right.
And thank you guys. As always, please give Pam a follow at Sport Bigs, and then check out the website. Again, I'll put the link up on the screen for you, www.sportbigs.com, to give a follow. Pam, I'll let you go to basketball practice. Thank you again for joining us. See you guys. Bye, Lori, Lisa, and Rebekah. And for everybody, honestly, this is something that is so incredible and so impactful and empowering to see the way that, these toys are able to redefine and change how the next generation is able to play with toys and being able to have that representation. So I hope that you have a chance to check out the website, give them a follow on social media. That's where I was able to see all the great things they've got going on and all the support that they're getting. And as always, be sure to give us a follow as well across podcast platforms, as we're bringing you a new episode each and every week. Again, you can always follow my personal pages at Renee P. Wash on Twitter, at Renee P. Washington on Facebook and Instagram, as well as YouTube. I thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Beyond the Headlines here on Fox Sports Radio. I hope you have a great rest of your week. I'll see you guys soon, though, because we've got more episodes coming your way. So don't go too far. We'll be back shortly with more episodes live across social media platforms. So be sure to tune in. Have a good one, guys, and I will see you next time.
Only on Beyond the Headlines. This is Beyond the Headlines. Only on Beyond the Headlines. This is Beyond the Headlines. Only on Beyond the Headlines. This is Beyond the Headlines with Renee Washington.